As Objectivity is growing rapidly and we always look for continuous improvement, we thought it is sensible to ask somebody to help us with project management trainings. Now, as we used to work with Stuart before, he was the first person and the best person actually from our perspective to help us with this. That's why we've decided to organize a few days sessions with all the project management team to learn from his experience and to just understand the best practices of the project management art. What are the key elements to look at when starting a new project?
Assuming the business case has already been agreed, then I focus on the why, the who and the when. And by that I mean the objectives, the team and the high-level milestones.
Often new project teams consist of new team members. How to induct them better?
I think it's important that they're inducted into Objectivity first, so I think that's important. In my experience, most people are new to projects. Every project is new, the customers are new. So I think it's really important that you have a good kick-off meeting where you can explain the objectives of the project as far as the customer's business is concerned and explain how it fits in with Objectivity's strategy. It allows you to explain who the key stakeholders are and what the key milestones are in the project.
Could you advise on how to work with a customer who is focused on his core business and not on delivering and managing the project?
Yeah, I use the process of creating the project initiation document. So that covers all of the things that you need to explain to the customer about how you're going to run the project. Normally that settles down the customer so that they know that you know what you're doing. And then it's important from that point on to carry on with regular meetings and regular reports to keep them up to date.
What is the most important aspect of building a good relationship with a new customer?
Assuming that you've done your research for the customer, so in the training we've had some fun with looking at people and companies on the internet. Then I think the most important thing is to start face-to-face meetings, a face-to-face kick-off meeting with the customer, and I think particularly in this environment, that's the most important thing, to start a good relationship. Following on from that, then when you're doing the phone calls and the teleconferences, then you've already got that relationship, so it helps with the communication.
PM as a leader, do you think he should be visible or should he rather work from the back of the project?
That's easy for me. I think the project manager is a leader and needs to be working from the front. Doesn't mean to say they're not part of the team, but I think it's a key role and they're the people heading the charge, so to speak.
Weekly PA reports. What should we do if the customer doesn't value them and we still would like to send them to the customer?
First thing I would do, I would speak to them. Sometimes it might be you need to speak to them face to face. I'd explain to them how that process fits into the way that we work. I'd like to assure them that it's an important part of the communication with the customer, but if there are any small tweaks, or it could sometimes be the frequency that is not working for them, and would be prepared to make some small changes. But I think for me the weekly highlight report, the PA report, is an important part of building trust with the customer.
How to deal with the fact when the people change on the customer side in the middle of the project?
I think you have to employ the same tactics that you employed at the beginning of the project. So if it's a major change, then it might mean that you need to go back to the roles and responsibilities in the project to check that the new person is fulfilling the role of the person who's left. Once you've done that and established that it's the same, then it's back to a face-to-face meeting, starting to build trust and making sure that you understand each other and that they understand. Sort of midway through a project, they might not understand the Objectivity way of working, and it's important to explain that to them. So that's what I'd do.
How to effectively manage risks when they are just accepted at the beginning of the project, and then during the project running, the customer just gets confused when they are being realized?
I think the methodology helps there. So the normal way of assessing risks is to categorise them. One of the completely fair categorisations is to accept the risk. So I think at the beginning of the project you need to get that signed off by the customer. However, it's the project manager's responsibility to monitor that risk, because things can change, and a risk that could be accepted at the beginning of the project might need mitigation through the middle of the project. I think the other tip is also to get the risks and their assessment signed off at the beginning of the project, and then it's very, very clear to the customer they've accepted it, so that they'll be aware of that all the way through.
Sometimes in the project I do not work with the real sponsor, I work with a representative. And often when there is a decision to be made by the sponsor and it's not taking place actually, I need to bypass the sponsor. What to do to help with such a situation?
Okay, I agree it's a very difficult situation, and it's very sensitive that you need to protect your relationship with your direct contact. But as part of the project setup, then you're identifying everybody's roles and responsibilities. You should be identifying where key decisions need to be made, when they need to be made. And by having that clarity, it means that if the person is being obstructive, then they're holding up the project. I think it's a case of it's a difficulty, so going and spending some time face to face with the customer to explain why it's important that the decision needs to be made. And I think only as a last resort would you want to escalate, and that would mean escalating with your manager within Objectivity to find the right method to go and talk to this person's or a more senior stakeholder in the project to resolve the situation. But that would have to be a last resort.
After you have worked with us for a couple of days, what would be, from your opinion, the areas that we need to improve in?
I think there are three areas. The first is making sure that you do as much research as you can before you meet the customer or start the project, meaning about the customer, about their strategy, about the key people within the customer's organisation. So I think that's the first thing. Second thing is an increased focus on the project setup and the project initiation document. It might sound a bit boring, but it's the process that you go through to get the project initiation document which makes the project manager think hard about what needs to be done. And I think the final thing is always keeping in mind that you might need a meeting might better be done face to face than over the phone. So that would be the three key things.
So thank you again, Stuart, for all the hard work you have done and all the 4 days of training we have spent together. I've got some great feedback from the team you've worked with, so I'm sure that in the future, as we're going to grow, probably we're going to ask for your help again. Thank you very much, Stuart.
It's been a pleasure, thank you.